Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Xbox Casuals, the Xbox podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Corey Deering. Alongside me, as always, is my light and fun anniversary, Josh Fitty.
Jesus Christ.
Wrong show.
Wrong show. I'm not light. I'm arguably not fun.
Oh, Josh, you're super fun.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, that was, oh boy. This morning, waking up to 4 blogs and trying to read those to disseminate what's going on with Bungie's new initiatives, and more about that on Thursday. But
seems like a mess.
Oh man, I have just so many thoughts.
Yeah,
none of them particularly great.
Yeah, none of them are. We'll say the most positive one is relatively neutral.
Yeah, I mean, I do think some things are good, but overall, it was just like very lukewarm, and it was like, oh, really? We're doing this again? Yes, we're towing the company line now. Love that. Love it when the new game director is sent out to tow the company line. Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
So,
it's oh boy. Anyways,
in non-catastrophically horrible Bungie news,
yeah,
Star Wars Outlaws.
Yeah, how is it?
Pretty fucking fun.
Cool. I haven't gotten a chance to play it yet. I was going to this weekend, and I just got super busy, and then something new came up that I can't talk about right now, but I will tell you when we're done recording. And man, it's been fucking busy.
Yeah, if you're going into Outlaws expecting the greatest Star Wars game you've ever played, you're gonna be disappointed. But I think the people who aren't going in expecting like the greatest licensed game of all time are gonna have fun.
All I want is a really fun world to run around in and just be in it for a while. That's all I want.
I think that this world largely accomplishes that. I won't say it does it 100%, but I do think that to a decent extent, I think it does it. The first real planet you're on, Tashara, definitely feels the most fleshed out. Tatooine is Tatooine. Kijimi is fine, but very small. And Akiva, I think, it's the one I'm currently on, is a fucking slog to get around. It in Tatooine, it's just like, oh my god, like this is awful. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Like there's plenty of references to all eras of Star Wars in it, which I really enjoy. You know, ranging from High Republic to Kijimi is a planet from Episode 9, so going all the way up to the canonically latest thing in the timeline, I think is a really cool twist. An EU character I really, really like from the books shows up. Was a very big fan of that. Nice. I guess he's also in the movies at a certain point. Really enjoy that he shows up.
Dash Rendar.
No, God, dude, if Dash Rendar was in this, I would fucking cry. I would cry, just weep tears of joy that he exists.
Yeah.
I do find it very funny that in a Syndicate game, we don't deal with Black Sun at all. That was really weird to me. I know there's
sequel.
Well, I know there's not as much of an emphasis on Black Sun in the new canon, in the Disney canon. I know there's not as much of an emphasis on them. Like, oh, we're gonna build our own. The Pikes, Crimson Dawn, the Shigas, I think is what they're called, is one of them. And then of course, you can't have a game about rogues without the Hutts. Instead of going to Tatooine, I wish we would have gone to somewhere like Nar Shaddaa, which I think would have been really, really cool to see on screen. I get why we're on Tatooine. I said this on Tower Casuals last week. I understand it. I don't like it, but I understand the reasoning. The whole reason this game is set between episodes 5 and 6 really feels like it's so they can be like, hey, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, it's Jabba the Hutt. Because otherwise there's no reason to go to Tatooine at all. At all. None.
Right.
I think going to Nar Shaddaa, going to Corellia, either one of those would have been Kessel, like any of those would have been more interesting to me. But I'm not going to sit here and complain. I do think that leaves room for DLC packs. I think that leaves room for the inevitable sequel that's going to come. But by and large, I do like it. I like that it kind of acts as a pseudo sequel of sorts to the Solo movie. Granted, it takes place like 15 years later in the timeline, but I like that because I mean Crimson Dawn's in it.
Yeah.
Obviously,
I think you said Dollar Store.
Dollar Store Amelia Clark is in this.
Yeah.
It's not her, but damn, that person tried their hardest.
At least they tried.
Tried. Kira shows up a couple of times so far. You know, not a big spoiler if you look at the Syndicate screen at all. Surprise, you're going to see her on it.
What?
What? I do. So I like how you can upgrade the blaster. Like there's 3 different modules, or there's 3 different modules for 2 of them, and 2 for the heavy component you can get. I think that's particularly cool. You can upgrade your speeder, upgrade your ship, and yeah, that stuff is kind of necessary if you want to 100% the game. This is not something I'll be getting a platinum or a 100% completion in terms of gamer score on, because I've looked at some of those drives and I just have no desire to do that. I'm having fun. I've put in roughly 20 hours in 2 weeks. I'm having fun with it though. It's not, again, like, I think Jeff Grubb summed it up the best when he was like, this really reminds me of the games we played when we were kids. And it really does feel like a Shadows of the Empire for a new generation. And I want to, I guess, explain what I mean by that. Shadows of the Empire is not some masterpiece. It's fine. We've had about a dozen Star Wars games better than it, though. And that, to be expected, it's one of the early N64 games. But it was kind of the first game, or one of the first games, where they were like, oh yeah, we're gonna have this game, we're gonna tie in a novel, we're gonna tie in like all this other stuff. Like, it has its own toy line, and like the only time we'd ever seen anything like that was Dark Forces, which came out around the same time, I guess maybe a year earlier. That introduced, Kyle Katarn. But Outlaws very much is in that vein of Shadows of the Empire, of Bounty Hunter. And it's like, hey, it's not the greatest thing you've ever played, but for a licensed game, pretty damn fun. Like, pretty damn good. If you go into it knowing that you're going to get the normal Ubisoft bullshit, yeah, it's not bad. It's, it's Star Wars with some Assassin's Creed mixed in. I do find it really funny that the mandatory stealth sections that you cannot fail, or you have to start all over, have just received unanimously terrible feedback, that they're actually going to patch those to make them much more forgiving.
Sounds like a
in
Final
the next
Fantasy 15 situation.
Oh, it's so fucking funny, because I'm like, dude, because like one of the first ones you have to do in particular is so rough. The very first one you do on Tashara is so rough. It's like, what the fuck, dude? Like, it's so long. And if you get caught at any point in that, you're screwed. You can't kill anybody. Yeah. Like, your blaster takes forever to reset after you stun somebody. It is the worst. As much fun as I'm having with this game, it's like, oh my god, like, those sections are so bad. And there's more than a few sections like that in the early stages of the game, especially. Mm-hmm. I found once I got off Tashara and I was like able to start upgrading the gun and stuff, it was definitely more forgiving. They were like, yeah, we don't, like, I literally had an NPC say, yeah, I don't fucking care if you kill everybody here, go for it. Their lives mean nothing to me. And I was like, done. I'm going to try to sneak, but I'm going to shoot everyone the second they see me. And that led to a giant fight inside of a huge warehouse, which was ridiculous. And I died multiple times, but it's still like, it's a fun game. It's, it's like a solid 8. Yeah. I would say it's like 7.5. I'd probably bump it to an 8. I'm having enough of a good time, because for every gripe that I have, I come across these missions where I'm like, god damn, that's so cool. And like without spoiling anything, there are some really cool missions in this game. Funny enough, several of them on Tatooine. And like there's so many Easter eggs, I think, for those who love the games. Like when you go into the cantina in Mos Eisley, you can there's a booth that's quote unquote cursed that nobody is sitting at, and it's Han Solo's booth.
Oh,
and you can see the blaster shot where Greedo's head was.
Awesome, that's cool.
Or the blaster shot that Greedo shot at Solo, I guess I should say. But yeah, it's really cool. I enjoy it. You're landing at Docking Bay 94. Like, it's a little too on the nose with some of the references.
Yeah.
But, like, Sabacc might be one of the best mini games, like, ever.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Sabacc, it's up there with Gwent and Queen's Gambit from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth as, like, one of my favorite modern mini games. So, that's really cool. Like, I would take a standalone Sabacc game right now from this team. There's not enough depth there, but you get what I'm saying. Like, Sabacc is really fun. I easily could play like an hour or two of Sabacc and not get annoyed.
Nice.
Because there's ways to make that more fun and make that more engaging. You can buy new chips that you can use, which are basically gambling chips that you can use during it for different moves you can only perform with those. That's cool. There's speeder races. There's smuggling. There's infiltrating. Like there's a little bit of everything. And I really love that we have another Star Wars game that doesn't rely on Jedi.
Yeah.
Yes, I love playing as a Jedi, but right now, no Jedi game is going to come close to matching what Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor do.
Right.
The only thing that would is if you give me a new Knights of the Old Republic. That would be about the only other Jedi game I want right now. Like, much like the Jedi series from Respawn takes clear inspiration from The Force Unleashed in terms of its set pieces, the movement, the combat abilities, etc. This very much takes from Bounty Hunter, Shadows of the Empire, a little bit of like Battle for Naboo in there. And it's something that we haven't had in a really long time, I think, in Star Wars, where you play as a character on foot without Jedi powers.
Yeah.
That's something you get so rarely, and understandably so. You get that very rarely in this universe. And I think it's great to mix it up a little bit. So I just want to get away from the original trilogy. This would have been such a better game to me if we were just freed of the shackles of, hey, see that, see that, see that, see that. But I get it. Like, the first game, you got to do it because you got to get Jabba the Hutt in there.
Right. So,
but with how it's set, another one clearly could be set in the early years of the New Republic, and I think would be great.
Yeah.
So, yeah, fun. Great characters. Nyx is a great companion. Kay is I think Kay is a good lead character, even if she's really dumb at times. Yeah. Lovable crew. ND5 is great. So,
that's your droid part.
That is the big ass droid. Yes, that is the other person on the cover of the game with Kay and Nyx is ND5. So yeah, I would encourage Star Wars fans, check it out. Hopefully you'll like it. And if you're on the fence, there's no shame in waiting on a sale on this one. Yeah. But this is from Massive. This is from the team that did The Division. They did last year's Avatar Frontiers of Pandora or whatever it's called game. They're being kept pretty busy over there. So I feel like they're definitely like the Ubisoft team that like just consistently puts out like pretty decent product. Like, okay, you know what you're getting from Massive. It's going to be an 8.
Yep.
It's going to be an 8 out of 10. And if that for whatever reason an 8 out of 10 isn't good enough for you, wait for a sale.
Yeah.
So
which it's a Ubisoft game, so next week.
Yeah, see, that's been the joke about like that and EA. But I found it really funny how long it took to get the Jedi games to go on sale, in particular with EA. Yeah. I think you're going to see another thing kind of like that here. Like, licensed games were so used to, they're going to go on sale right away. Like the Avatar game went on sale almost immediately.
Yeah.
This one, I think you probably won't see the first sale until Black Friday. The first real sale. Like, you might see like $10 off, but I think like the first substantial sale will probably be Black Friday.
Yeah.
And this is a current gen only game. So that's also adding to the, sales or, lower amount thereof.
Yeah. I think also like Disney still holds Star Wars as like a premier product, even if fans don't think it is, right? And so maybe that has a lot to do with it. Whereas Avatar is like the movies are making their money, right? And the game is not, it's cool, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think that it's funny because like I think that the majority of fans are just like, hey, they can be normal about it and be like, oh, I didn't care for this particular Star Wars project, but hey, maybe the next one will be for me.
Yeah.
And that's very much how I think this game is. Like, I think the Ubisoft of it all has people kind of going, I don't know. Like, we had that with Jedi Fallen Order also, where like people are like, I don't know. And then, but the incredible reviews come out for Fallen Order, right? And it's a Game of the Year nominee and all this and that. And that game sold fantastically. I think like 8 million units total. 7 or 8 million, something like that. It sold ridiculous numbers that Outlaws is probably not going to reach, if we're being totally honest. I think that's because it was just like top notch in terms of like everything that it did. And they made the correct decision with Survivor to go current gen only last year.
Mm-hmm.
The last gen versions are just now coming out of Jedi Survivor, by the way. And I don't know how that game's going to run on last gen. It barely ran on current gen.
Right.
It took months to get that game to a stable place.
Yeah.
But really, really good. Get really, really good series. Outlaws, great first pass. I really hope they get to do a sequel. The director has been like, "Oh, we have so many. Like, I have so many ideas for a sequel. We're working on DLC right now. Like, I bought the gold edition, so I got 2 DLCs. One of which is supposed to come this fall, and one is coming out in the spring. Really excited to play those. So, yeah,
nice.
I think there's a lot to love here. That's probably the only new release that I've played in the last couple of months that I'd be like, yeah, I think people need to go get this.
Cool. I'm really excited to check it out. I need to I don't know, man. I just haven't had it's too much money being spent elsewhere at this point.
Yeah, I understand that.
Man. And yeah, I'm trying to like be really smart with my money right now because there are just things that are costing money that I was not expecting. So that's fun. Or, getting to and from PAX was also
pretty expensive.
So,
yeah, Seattle was not a cheap city.
No, it is not. You are correct, sir. It is not cheap.
No.
So, but yeah, it was a good time though.
Yeah, tell us all about PAX. Man. So you got to go, and unfortunately, you did not. I hate to rub salt in the wound. You did not get into Storytime with Phil Spencer.
I didn't, even
though we're both still very upset about.
Even though I got an email, and they said media can show up here. Show them this email with your badge. You will get in. And I showed them my badge with the email, and they didn't let me in, and I was very upset. And at that point, the line was like super long, and I was like, I'm not staying in this. I'll just if I don't get to watch it, I'll just read about it online somewhere. Someone will have a write-up somewhere about it.
So what were some of the standout games that you got to see?
Man, standout games. So Zelda obviously was a standout. I was actually shocked at how much I was like, I'm now anticipating Zelda. Like
that seems to be the general opinion.
Yeah. It's funny. Jeff Grubb and I talked about it on the plane a little bit. And he saw more than I did because
they got a 90-minute behind closed doors demo.
Yeah. Which I knew where that was, but we weren't allowed to go back there because there's a big one of those like standees that you would used to see in GameStop outside the door of just Zelda with the star thing that floats around her. But yeah, so Zelda was shockingly very good. I'm interested to see how they're going to implement the puzzles throughout the entire world because I only played this small little section, but it was it clicked instantly of how this was going to work. So kudos to, I'm assuming it's Grezzo making this. So kudos to Grezzo. Astrobot, I know it's out now and people are playing it, but we played that and that was really awesome. Another game that
I'm hearing it's legitimately a game of the year contender.
I mean, what did we play? 2 levels, I think. It was I think the last time I enjoyed playing a 3D platformer this much was maybe the original Jack and Daxter.
Jesus. So not Mario Galaxy or anything like that we've had other people citing.
Oh God, I don't like Mario Galaxy at all.
Well, I mean, I don't either, but I'm always in the minority there. I do adore Odyssey, though.
Yeah, I think Astrobot's better than Odyssey. Like,
yeah, I mean, if people are comparing it to Galaxy, then I assume it's better than Odyssey.
Yeah, it's really good, man. Like just like the attention to detail and the care and the collectibles are super fun. The costumes are fun. The power ups are fun. Like
I've had no less than 5 or 6 people send me screenshots of the Persona cameos in the game of Joker, Teddy, and Aegis.
Yeah, there are a lot of them floating around. So it's a remarkable game. It controls well. The dual sense actually makes sense, which I have a hard time saying for a lot of other games that are on that platform.
I don't particularly care for the I like the dual sense as a controller. I don't like the haptics.
Yeah.
I'll put it this way. I think the haptics would be better if Xbox made a haptic controller. Because then it would be standard.
Yeah.
For everybody. And as such, it's just, it's one of those niche little fun little like third party thing or first party things. Like the only other games I think that really implement that really, really, really well are the Spider-Man games. But I like that. I always like that games give you the option to turn those off because it's like something that's cool for like 10, 15 minutes. And then I take it off because I know I'm going to forget that it's on and just like jam the trigger down. Yeah. So, big fan of Astrobot. I'm hoping to start that one this week.
Yeah, Astrobot's really good, and Stalker 2 was.
I can't wait. Day one with Game Pass.
Yeah, day one with Game Pass. It's funny because I was talking to Cog about it a couple days ago, or like right after I had gotten done playing it, because he asked me if I wanted to do something, and I was like, I'm at PAX, man. But he was like, oh yeah, I forgot. How is it? I'm like, it's great. He was like, did you play Stalker 2? I'm like, yeah, dude. He was like, tell me. I'm like, it's fucking cool, man. I was like, you're gonna love it. I said, it's so atmospheric. It's so tension filled. Like you're kind of scared, but you're kind of just like wandering around trying to, just take in the atmosphere and just see what's going on. And like, Stalker 2 is going to be a huge hit regardless if you play it on Game Pass or not, man. That game is going to be, I feel like this game is going to be massive.
I really, really hope so, because that is, the story behind GSC is just remarkable. I feel that way about them and about Sad Cat, who's making Replace. Like both of these games, I think are just going to be massive. They were 2 of the biggest hitters from the 2021 Summer Showcase. It feels so weird that we've been talking about these games for so many years now. Like we have talked about them across multiple different shows at this point.
Yeah.
That it's kind of surreal that we're in like the last like 70 days to launch for Stalker 2.
Yeah.
That it's finally happening. And I mean, Microsoft clearly thinks it's going to be a big deal because they moved Avowed. They got Avowed out of the way. It kind of has the end of November all to itself. I don't think anything else is releasing around that time on any platform.
Yeah.
Once you get past Call of Duty, I feel like it's just kind of smooth sailing the rest of the year, except for Stalker and Indiana Jones.
Yeah. It's it's a stacked fall for Xbox. I mean, we talked about it a couple episodes ago, right? Like
Yeah.
their lineup for the fall is definitely like it's a great lineup, and this is like that. Not to get into this now, but like the fact that a lot of these games are going to end up on PlayStation at some point, like they finally turned that corner of like, we have games and now you can play them everywhere type thing, which I don't really care, but it's just kind of like that.
Yeah.
You finally got it. And
I understand like both sides of it. I understand the
Yeah.
people who are really, really upset about it.
Mhm.
And I get the people who are just like kind of like us who are like, who cares? More people get to play great games from great studios.
Yeah.
Like I think we've just moved so far beyond the archaic nature of, well, I have to have value to this plastic box.
Mhm.
I think Steam becoming as big as it did, and especially I think the uptick in PC adoption post like 2020 really has, that's been the unsung story of this generation. I think has been the shift to PC. Like we talked about it with Jeff Gardner a couple of weeks ago, and Jeff said that like the amount of people using PC has gone up so drastically that like they're it's on par with like combining all the consoles at this point.
Mhm.
So like it really is getting to a point where like if Sony caves and starts putting their single player first party games on Steam or Epic or whatever, or even their own launcher day one, like day and date,
Mhm.
Man, I think that's going to become even more drastic at this point.
Yeah.
Like Microsoft doesn't care. We've talked about this. Like they don't care because they're going to get your money no matter what. You go to PC, guess what? What are you playing it on? You're playing it on fucking Windows. You're going to buy it from Steam. They're still going to get the revenue. Like they have to split it with Steam, but whatever. You play on PlayStation, they're still getting revenue. You play some of these games on Switch, they're still getting revenue. They don't care.
Yeah.
Like I cannot emphasize enough how much they do not care right now. But that kind of ties into a later thing that we have to talk about tonight.
Yeah. Some of the
Monster Hunter.
Yeah, Monster Hunter. Yeah,
Monster Hunter Wilds. Tell me all about it. Two weapons.
That was not available in the demo that we saw.
I'm not super surprised.
I do have to say that, and I assume we were playing the PC version. Just because. But it was super smooth, super fluid. Just the movement felt better. The like I said on Tower Casuals, there's like this new kind of critical spot system similar to like Horizon, where you can chip away some of the skin or the scales or whatever type of monster you're fighting, and you'll see a crit spot that you can do more damage at that spot. And then carrying two weapons I think is going to be a huge deal, because I think it'll allow you to play that rock paper scissors game with the different monsters easy, a little easier, right? So it was really a beautiful game, and they had a life-size something there. Stephanie and I had no idea what it was called. We called it the Blue Chocobo because that's what it kind of looked like, but you Monster Hunter fans will know what it is, and apparently you can ride these things. So but Monster Hunter, man, that game's talking about a massive game. That game's going to take over the first half of next year, and I'm telling you.
Yeah.
That line was wrapped around the Capcom booth the entire time I was there, even at media hour. Like,
which is crazy. Like, if you had told me before Monster Hunter World came out that, hey, within the next 5-6 years, Monster Hunter is going to be one of Capcom's premier franchises in the West, I probably would have laughed you out of the room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it was stuck on 3DS, and like we had the terrible Wii game.
World was such a revelation, though. Mm-hmm. Like, I had a really hard time getting into World, and I think it's because I wasn't ready for that kind of game yet.
Right.
But you had World, and then you had Rise, and now you're going to Wilds, and just like, God, what an incredible like 6-7 year run for this franchise.
Yeah. It's definitely what it makes me really think about, honestly, is like the rise of like something like The Witcher, also, of like the first couple of Witcher games, they were fine. kind of niche games, whatever. And then the third game comes out and it's this mega hit, right? And so we look at Monster Hunter the same way. Where like, yeah, the 3DS games, PSP games, whatever, they were, they had it had its audience, and then Generations kind of started I would say the upward trajectory, and like, oh, Monster Hunter is kind of cool, right? That's kind of cool. And then when Capcom put out Worlds and later Iceborne, right? Like those were like just took over. It took over everyone.
Yeah. I mean, God, just a ridiculous come up. It's funny because I always used to confuse Monster Hunter with Monster Rancher. You remember those games back on the original PlayStation and on PS2? Those are the games that I used to always confuse Monster Hunter with, and I was like, oh, well, I mean, I knew about these games. No, drastically different games. Let me tell you something. So I do think it's really cool that when they decided that Monster Hunter needed to come to non-Nintendo consoles, essentially, because the funny part is, like, really almost all these are being held to Japan too. Like, a lot of this series was either handheld or it was just in Japan. And then World changed all of that.
Yeah.
It's actually the first game in the entire series to be released simultaneously around the world. That is 14 years in the franchise, and it's the first one to be released simultaneously around the world.
Yeah.
Like, you were waiting a couple of years for those to go international in some cases. So, yeah, I can't wait for Wilds. Everything I've seen from that just looks awesome.
Yeah. It's good. I'm telling you, that game. Oh man, you think Destiny's in a bad place now? You wait till that game comes out. It's not that I want to,
yeah,
harp on any bad juju or anything, but no pun intended. But yeah,
no, I get it. I totally get it.
I do want to shout out some indies that I didn't really talk about. I won't talk a lot about them, but things that I think people should be paying attention to if you're into indie games. There's this hilarious game that we saw called Pizza Bandit.
Okay.
It's kind of like you're running a pizzeria, but it's also a Gears of War style shooter.
Interesting. Okay.
So like you're running this pizzeria, but you have to protect your pizzeria from like invading aliens and monsters.
Okay.
It's kind of cool, man. It's kind of weird, but kind of cool. I would look up some stuff about that. It's kind of fun.
Pizza Bandit.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, man. It's definitely got a vibe, definitely got a vibe. Another game is a 2D kind of side scroller / I guess this game is a 2D side scroller, but it's by the animation team that did Cuphead. So like some of the animators of Cuphead did this game called Croak. It stars this frog who's like king of the swamp, and he has to go through and like, jump around and kill invaders and stuff. It's kind of fun. It's interesting. It's cute. So that was cool. Kingdom Come Deliverance had a huge people love that game. Everybody I talked to is like, you got to check out Kingdom Come Deliverance too.
Which is wild. I did not expect that.
Every single person I talked to mentioned it at least once.
I've seen so much coverage of that game, and I was just like, wow, okay.
Yeah. It's that game's going to be massive too. I don't know, man. There's so many. God, there's so many games, man. There's let's see. Anton Blast is a game that we saw. It was actually recommended by Sean over at Yacht Club.
Okay.
Asked, said to play this, and so Anton Blast. I'm reading this little excerpt here. Anton Blast features Anton and the envious Satan, the antagonist, with a deliciously curvaceous bum. from whom you must
Jesus
reclaim your
Christ.
spirit from. You speed, bowl, jump, and smash with a pretty epic hammer in several colorful and zany levels. So it's pretty cool. That game's kind of funny looking. It's got an interesting art style.
Okay.
But it's pretty cool, man. It's kind of, man, what do I want to? It's kind of like Castle Crashers meets Rayman Legends, I want to say.
I love Castle Crashers.
Yeah.
So, and I love Rayman Legends.
Yeah, so that's kind of like the vibe I got from it.
Okay.
So that's kind of that's a couple of games that I wanted to shout out from PAX. There were a lot of indies there, man. No way we could cover everything. Obviously.
Yeah, no. PAX is the place for your indies to get in the hands of the general population for sure. Unless you're doing something like Steam Next Fest or something.
Yeah. Also, shout out to our friends over at Way Forward doing Yars Rising and Clock Tower. They were there. They were signing. Little sad they didn't share with me that they were, signing and giving away the Yars Rising comic book. That's okay, James. It's okay, Adam. It's cool.
We're dropping names.
Went out of my way to come see you guys, and you didn't even save me a copy. It's cool. It's fine. It's cool.
Well, Corey, I'm glad you had a great trip. Despite not getting your comic book,
no, it's fine. I didn't really.
We are eagerly looking forward to next May.
Oh, I know, man.
For PAX East.
It can't come soon enough, man. I was talking to Stephanie, and we were like, "Man, this it just can't come soon enough."
Yeah, that is going to be a crazy time.
Yeah, let me tell you, man. It's gonna. We're going all out, man. I think we're gonna bring Andre to do all of our video stuff.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun.
Bringing Andre. The plan is for me to come on.
I know.
Come join you guys.
Maybe we'll do a Tower Casuals last word crossover, because I know Abantus and Cog will both be there. And that's something that Cog and I have been trying to talk about for a while. So
yeah,
we'll get that in. I know that's been requested in the Discord for a while. Yeah, man, we're going to do a lot.
And that'll probably be right before the summer drop.
Yep.
So,
yep. That'll be cool. It'll be cool.
It would be cool. It's fingers crossed, man. That's already planning. God, planning to be out there and already planning to be there in May.
I'm already there, man. I'm already there.
Yeah, I caught myself looking at flights the other day.
Yeah. Well,
so
I'll tell you after we're done recording.
We do have another story out of PAX. This one maybe not so great for some Xbox fans to hear. Out of the story time with Phil Spencer. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Speaking at a PAX West panel, Phil Spencer revealed, this comes from Games Radar, by the way. Phil Spencer revealed that Xbox considered signing Bungie's beloved sci-fi shooter Destiny, but ultimately chose not to. Getting to pitch for Destiny on, do we want to sign this? We ended up not signing Destiny. It obviously went to Activision, and to see what it grew into from a business kind of Xbox standpoint, I can look at it, and it's just a really interesting journey in terms of what Bungie built. Phil briefly compared Destiny to Halo, the fellow Bungie banger and arguably one of the most successful Xbox exclusive ever. It's not arguable. It is. Xbox doesn't exist without Halo, just as an aside. Spencer explains the online shooter initially didn't really click with him as he's not a big PvP player. His mind gradually changed as the game's second expansion dropped, though. It turns out that that's not what it was like at all. When House of Wolves came out, it definitely landed on me. Phil Spencer doesn't dwell on the decision to not sign the game, though. I've passed on some of the worst, made some of the worst game choice decisions ever. Another such game that got away was Guitar Hero. A title that Spencer says he felt at first wasn't going to work for Xbox. The concept was too surreal, from the toy-esque instrument plugged directly into a console to the gameplay itself. Oh, man.
Neat.
He does finish up with saying, "I'm not a regrets type person. Maybe that's not a fault of mine, but I passed on so many games. Instead of looking back with frustration, Spencer tries to look forward and be positive about the things we're doing. With smash hit games like Destiny, that means celebrating studios such as Bungie and their monumental work. Just like to celebrate what that team has done. It's incredible." So this came up as an interesting topic in the Xbox community over the last week. That is now Destiny, Guitar Hero, spurning Marvel, and I don't know. Tell me where you've heard this one before. He passed on Grand Theft Auto 3 for the original Xbox, apparently.
Yeah,
being original Xbox, it would have been a launch title on the original Xbox. Listen, I'm going to say this. I love Phil.
Listen.
I love Phil Spencer dearly, but holy shit. I can understand Grand Theft Auto 3. The thing with GTA is we're all looking at this with rose-colored glasses and with the benefit of 25 years of hindsight. Nobody thought GTA 3 was going to be the game it was.
No.
Not a single goddamn person, unless you got to play it at that E3, thought that it was going to be this mega hit. Not a single person. Yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and get that one out of the way now. Number 2, Guitar Hero. Guitar Hero is a little bit less defensible because we'd already seen games like DDR were very popular in the early 2000s.
Right.
So popular that we had a Mario DDR exclusive on the GameCube.
Yeah. Oh yeah, DDR Mario Mix.
DDR Mario Mix
wasn't even a music game. It was a platformer.
You had that. You had Donkey Konga. You had Donkey Kong Jungle Beat.
Oh, man, Donkey Konga was awesome.
I think the idea, and if I'm reading between the lines, and I'm putting my own interpretation here, is Phil, I have a feeling, looked at these games and was like, or looked at Guitar Hero and was like, we don't do gimmicks here at Xbox. Like, you got to remember, like, the OG Xbox made its name off of Halo, Project Gotham, Mech Assault, things like that. Like, Guitar Hero came out in the waning months of that generation.
Right.
Leading up to, or I guess it came out in 2004. It came out 2004, 2005-ish, something like that. Guitar Hero 2 turns around and comes out almost right afterwards. And that was the one, like, Phil was like, nope, that's it. We're getting Guitar Hero 2 on Xbox. They had a special guitar for it. I still have mine in the closet somewhere. The Explorer. But man, it's just, it's that to me is like the big one of those three that like really got away. Like, man, I can understand what you were thinking, but holy shit, what a thing to let get away from you.
Yeah.
Destiny, I go back and forth on this one. I see that less as the one that got away and more of like Bungie very clearly did not want to work with Microsoft anymore.
Yeah, that's more of what it felt like, right? It was like
we've all read the Jason Schreier book, Blood, Sweat, and Pixels. There's a whole chapter on the making of Destiny, and they're like, they decided they were done with Microsoft.
Yeah.
Like after Halo 3 came out, they decided they were done. Mm-hmm. So I don't imagine that now listen, they just may have decided they were done with Microsoft and just been like, hey, we want to be our own company. And maybe them and Phil did have conversations about, hey, would you guys still want to publish this game? We just want to be totally independent. We want to own our IP. That's the big thing. We want to own the IP. We want to be our own studio. That conversation probably went a little bit differently. And this is another fascinating wrinkle into the story of Microsoft and Bungie. Because we all remember back in 2020, the rumor came out that summer, which multiple people corroborated, even though Pete Parsons vehemently denied it. The Eurogamer, Jeff Grubb, Ryan McCaffrey, like people who don't just report shit because they feel like it, were like, no, Microsoft has talked to Bungie about buying them out.
Mm-hmm.
And, this and that. But the sticking point we all felt at the time was, oh, Bungie wants all its games to be across all platforms. We're now coming to find out Microsoft just didn't want to pay that much. They simply did not want to pay, like, what was it? What Sony paid? $3.6 billion?
Yeah, something like
The
that.
reported offer that we heard from Microsoft was like $1 billion or less, and they were also in the middle of buying Bethesda at the time, which we didn't know about. But it's like, oh yeah, like I'm sorry, like, you know, you look at it back then and like, yeah, Bungie coming home would have been like this great story and this and that, but like it's come out over the last couple of years like, oh, they were worried about like the talent being run into the ground and how expensive it was to maintain a live service game and this and that. And like, if there's any of the big three that understand the cost of maintaining a live service game, it's Microsoft. So I get it. And I think they probably were looking at that being like, well, we don't want Destiny to come in and like potentially overshadow Halo or Gears or anything like that. Like these franchises that, you know, we've grown in-house. Okay. The Marvel one is totally inexcusable. Like, who the fuck do you think you are? Like telling Marvel we don't need you, we want to focus on our own IP. No, you fucking do a game with Marvel, Phil. You fucking do a game with Marvel, and you don't wait for Sony to come out and put out 3 absolute bangers back to back in a 5-year span. Like, what the fuck, man? And like now, because of that, you're gonna have problems getting those types of games on your platform in the future. Like Blade, yeah, Blade, that's awesome. I'm so glad you're getting Blade. Blade is not Spider-Man.
Right.
Like, Blade is not Wolverine. Let's be totally honest here. Like, that decision may have screwed you. That is the true indefensible one, I think, of these 4. Yeah. Like, when you look at it, and the discussion basically is boiled down to, like, well, you know, is Phil Spencer just a bad executive? And, like, I mean, everyone's going to have some bad business decisions that they've made, right? But it wasn't just him. It's important to note that, like, outside of the Marvel thing, like, the other 3, like, that wasn't just him. There were people above him he had to answer to. Peter Moore. Peter Moore probably bears some responsibility for Guitar Hero not being on Xbox.
Yeah, probably.
Don Matrick might be the guy to be blaming about Destiny.
I was going to say Don Matrick probably has a lot of.
I want to know how many games he said no to.
I don't want to know, Josh. I don't want to know. TV.
I think the only game you could come out and tell me that Phil said no to, and obviously there's never been any evidence that this was even discussed. If it ever were to come out that Remedy pitched Control as an exclusive and they passed on it, I think that would be the only thing that would be like soul crushing for me to hear.
So, I mean, based on the way they've talked about Microsoft in the past, like, I don't think so.
There's no bad blood there.
Yeah,
like, it's important to note there's no bad blood, but they've always had more ambition than I think Microsoft was willing to pay for. And, you know, I think that part of that's a result of, well, Microsoft wants to build their own IP and this and that. They want to own the IPs that studios develop. And Remedy very much, from the beginning, wanted to own their shit.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a bummer. When you look at that relationship in particular, like, damn, Alan Wake and Quantum Break are 2 really, really good games, but they didn't sell.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is the audience on Xbox is totally different than the audience that buys those kinds of games. Like, those games would be, if Remedy was a first-party PlayStation studio, even in the PS3 era, would have just sold bangers. Would have absolutely been banger games.
Yeah.
So, like, it is what it is. I think when you look at the deals he has made, though, I mean, you got to remember, like, Rise of the Tomb Raider was an exclusive. Now, granted, the money he paid was not worth it, but that was a timed exclusive for a year, and that was a big deal at the time.
Yeah, people were.
That was a real big deal. Even if the problem was, it was undone by everyone coming out and being like, "Oh, it's going to come to PS4 next year."
Yeah.
Well, there you go. You can't give away the game right away. You know, bringing Lionhead in was a big deal, and you know, that was the kind of the other part of it was like, well, look how many teams have, you know, like, failed or left and this and that. It's like, I mean, Lionhead ran themselves into the ground too.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't do a very good job of stewarding the Fable IP either, right? I mean, they kept trying. They did the Fable, that side-scrolling thing, right?
Yeah, and I want to know how much of that was also from the top, like a mandate of you can't branch out beyond Fable.
Sure. And then
because the joke used to be Forza, Gears, Halo, and Fable, right?
Yeah, and then like the weird Connect game that they did, right?
Oh my God, Fable: The Journey! What a disaster!
Yeah,
what if literally one of the worst first party games of all time?
Yeah, which I guarantee was from up top, right? Because they were trying to get AAA games onto the Connect, right? So,
I mean, that Star Wars Connect.
Yeah, Dancing Han Solo. God, I can't get that Jason Derulo song out of my head, but it's fucking Han Solo.
It's yeah, I mean, like, listen, we can debate all day, like, oh, was he a good executive or not? It's like, man, no one is Satoru Iwata, right? Nobody is Reggie.
Definitely not.
Like, those guys were basically 1 in a million, and Nintendo ended up with both of them somehow.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, let's be honest, like, Reggie wasn't doing a lot of the green lighting. Okay, he's very much a businessman, you know?
Yeah. Face for the American side.
Iwata was different.
Yeah.
Right? And I think when you look at the guys who have largely run PlayStation and Xbox for like the last 15 years or so, really the only two that come out of there that I think look even semi-decent are Sean Layden, who has looked better with time, and Phil Spencer.
Mm-hmm.
Jimothy Ryan is not up there. Don Matrick is not in that conversation at all. Like, he's laughably terrible.
I mean, I feel like Jim Ryan is looking worse over time.
Jim Ryan, well, that's what I was saying. Like, Jim Ryan's looking worse, and Sean Layden's looking better and better as time goes on, because like, just you can. We just talked about Destiny, you know, like, and then
Concord too, right? I mean,
yeah, Concord, Destiny, you know, canceling factions, and you know, which I still maintain was a good idea. We don't know how Fair Games is going to play out. We don't know how. Was there one? Deviation's game got canceled, and I think Deviation even closed up all the way.
They did. Well, they folded part of that team into an internal team that they haven't announced yet to work on something, apparently.
The guy that was head of Deviation is now heading up the project that was spun off from Bungie.
Yeah.
So I do think that, like, when you look at things like that, it's like, okay, man, nothing's been that bad. Like, yeah, you can sit here and meme all you want about Starfield not being, you know, this game of the generation like Skyrim, you know, but like, an 83 on Metacritic isn't the worst thing in the world to get.
Mm-hmm.
That's still pretty damn good. Like, the ROI on the Bethesda purchase has already, like, it's already paid off, I think. Like, yes, Redfall, disaster. Absolute, complete disaster. And people are like, oh, when's the last time we saw a first party game do as bad as Concord? And I'm just like sitting here like, don't say it. Don't say it. 15 months ago, we had a game called Redfall. And it was terrible. And it was just like, Concord at least played good. Like, Redfall couldn't even do that. So anyways, the long and the short of it is, no, he's not as bad of an executive as some of y'all think, but he is a businessman. He is a businessman that happens to really like video games. Like, okay, you want to talk more about his record? Let's talk about like how many people they've had to lay off on Xbox. Let's talk about how they closed Arcane Austin and Tango. Mm-hmm. Like, let's talk about that. You know, not the games that got away, like, oh boy, Grand Theft Auto 3 and Guitar Hero and Destiny. We can hem and haw about that all day long. I want to talk about the studios that were closed earlier this year. You know, that's what I would like critical reporting to focus on that, to focus on the Redfall disaster, to focus on like the stuff that you did put out that was terrible. Like, okay, you let all these other games like Sea of Thieves redeem themselves. Why wasn't Redfall given that chance? Why didn't you put the resources into Arcane Austin to do it?
Right.
Like, these are questions I would love to have the answer to.
Right.
And that's what I think is more critical than, oh yeah, I skipped out on a game with plastic guitars that became a worldwide phenomenon. Like, okay, yeah, that's a big deal. But I mean, anything with a peripheral is a risky choice. Anybody remember the super shooter for the Wii or whatever it was with Link's crossbow training? Remember how like 2 games ever used it?
Yeah. So
like, I kind of get it. I mean, this is also the guy who greenlit the Steel Battalion thing with Xbox. If anybody remembers that chonker.
God.
So, like, I kind of understand.
Steel Battalion was cool, man.
It was awesome, but like that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah. No,
So like yeah, focus on the business decisions that have been made, not necessarily the games that he didn't agree to an exclusivity deal for. Because if he had, y'all be mad about those. So
right.
Like what are we doing here?
Right.
Everybody would have been mad about that. And like also at the end of the day, he ended up with the Guitar Hero IP anyways.
Right.
In a very funny roundabout way. And maybe some Marvel games. We don't know yet.
Maybe some Marvel games.
Maybe somewhere. Yeah, that's all I've got on that. I thought that was just very very enlightening that like that's what the conversation focused on.
Right.
And not other stuff.
Right.
So
fascinating stuff, man.
Fascinating and frustrating, I think.
Yeah,
so,
it was really shocking how open he was about all that.
He's gotten very frank, and that makes me really wonder. Like, I think Phil sees the next console release and then steps down.
I mean, yeah, I think, but yeah, we've said that for a while, though.
Because I mean, clearly Sarah is meant to take over at this point. Like,
right.
she has half of his job already.
Yeah,
so she's head of platform.
Right. So
I'm interested to see what happens there. Other than that, there are a lot of games that, funny enough, are coming to Xbox now.
Shocker.
Well, I mean, listen, but these couple things I have to fly through aren't like shocking, but it's like, oh hey, it's nice that they're finally getting talked about. First one comes from our buddy Jez Corden on the Xbox 2 podcast. He says at the 1 hour and 9 minute mark, I do think we're getting something Final Fantasy related at Xbox's Tokyo Game Show event. I've heard the whole slate is on the docket, including Final Fantasy 7, 16, and the Pixel remasters. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are wondering, has Sony locked down Final Fantasy 7 Remake forever? I've heard that is not the case, and that 7 will eventually come to Xbox. I don't know when it will, and I don't know if it will be in the first wave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's funny, because I actually heard some people talking about that at PAX. Some of the people who are around the Final Fantasy 14 booth, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they were Square people or if they really knew or not, but they're like, one of them was like, yeah, I'm going to work Tokyo Game Show after this. And I hear we're going to have a major presence at Xbox with the last couple Final Fantasies that were released. I'm like, okay.
My guess is that all of these do come eventually.
Yeah.
Like basically people who have corroborated this, Nate Drake on Reset Era and I think Alex Donaldson over at VG 24/7 were both talking about this and said that basically Square is basically done with exclusives outside of a few like very notable ones that have already been paid for essentially. Mm-hmm. Or like maybe if they're doing some stuff with Nintendo or something.
Yeah.
But their idea is everything on all platforms, like basically taking the Capcom approach that Capcom did like maybe 6-7 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Of we're not doing this timed exclusive bullshit anymore. Everything's coming to everything. If I had to guess, it will be the Pixel remasters and maybe 16.
Yeah.
I think something like Remake, it'll probably be Remake, Rebirth together.
Mm-hmm.
And I suspect that would be announced on a major stage when that happens.
Yeah.
I can't see that happening at anything smaller than a Jeff Keighley event. Which basically leaves it to be at a Keighley event or at a first party showcase. I don't think it happens at TGS, just realistically.
Yeah. I mean, I think
the Pixel remasters was the one where we were all like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a shoe-in, right? I think
that's the safe bet here.
Yeah, I do think 16 is also going to be announced there.
Yeah, the only reason I say 16 is because the PC port is coming out here in a week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't know what else Square has really besides 7 Remake, but Man, I've heard it both ways. I heard just remake is going to be announced, and then I heard they're going to save them both for later. And I'm like, well, which one is it? Come on. So I don't know, man. There's a lot going on. I just I would like to see these games on Xbox, because
there's an audience. It's definitely a smaller audience than PlayStation or Nintendo.
yeah, well,
But
I think it's a smaller audience because a lot of these games tend to maybe skip the platform in the first place, and then obviously Xbox doesn't have as much of an install base as PlayStation either.
No.
So
I mean, PlayStation's losing their install base over there too.
Yeah. So
everybody's going portable.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're all going to like Steam Deck or Switch at this point.
Yeah.
I mean that Trails from the Sky or whatever remake thing that everybody's freaking out about is like that's a series that hasn't touched Xbox, and I don't know, man. There's a lot of RPGs that just
I think that the best sign that you had was Visions of Mana coming day and date to Xbox.
Yeah.
With everything else, but also being a part of that Xbox Developer Direct back in the spring.
Right.
That was a big deal. We had the Final Fantasy XIV announcement, which was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Which Square has said repeatedly since then, yeah, no, we're bringing everything to Xbox.
Yeah.
I think it's just a question of what order do things come.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think those pixel remasters have to be. That is the safest fucking bet in the world.
Yeah, that's the shoe-in for me.
That's the shoe-in right now. I don't know what else you're going to possibly do right now, but that would be my guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, like we already said, I think 16 is a pretty safe bet too. But the big question mark is 7, I guess. Right? So.
Yeah, I think 7's going to continue to be the weird the question mark, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's working. The Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D remake is coming day and date also.
Mm-hmm. The other 2 remakes next year too, I think.
I believe so. I believe so. The Octopath Traveler 1 has come. Octopath Traveler 2 has come.
Game Pass. They're both on Game Pass also.
Yep. I remember we all thought it was really funny that Octopath Traveler came to Xbox. The first one came to Xbox before PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
That was very funny to me. But then they got 2 like at launch.
Yeah, and not 1.
Nobody knows what's going on with fucking Triangle Strategy coming somewhere else. Watch, we're gonna get all excited for the Pixel remasters, and it's gonna be fucking Foam Stars that comes to Xbox.
Oh God, please no.
God, could you imagine that that's what happens?
Yes, actually, Josh, yes, I absolutely.
I think something else that might be a safe bet would be Live a Live. That has come to every platform but Xbox. But yeah, the Pixel remasters have to be. That's got to be it.
Mm-hmm.
Forspoken is another one.
Yeah,
I kind of forget that they published that.
Yeah, I kind of forget that game exists.
I think Forspoken probably has to be taken into consideration.
That actually feels like a shoe-in at this point too, right? That feels like
it's been. So we had heard that was a 2-year exclusivity window.
Yeah.
We haven't quite hit 2 years yet, but I'm sure they could still announce that it's coming to Xbox.
Yeah.
Sony might have waived it at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, those are like kind of the most outstanding ones from the last couple of years that just haven't come over for whatever reason. So
yeah, there's a lot they can put over. The Mana game.
There's plenty of stuff there, and obviously it's going to take time to do this too. This isn't just going to happen overnight.
No, the Trials of Mana remake that they did for Switch and PS4 could come over. I'm running through it in my head now.
Yeah, there's a lot. Oh God, I'm only going back for like 3 years.
Yeah,
there's so much that can be done.
You could do those Tokyo RPG Factory games, I Am Setsuna and Lost Sphere, and that third one that nobody ever remembers what the name is.
I think if it's your first time bringing something over that hasn't been on these platforms in any way, shape, or form before, it's the Pixel remasters.
Yeah.
I think that's got to be, it's got to be that or 16 as your first thing, I think.
Yeah. Do you think these games will hit Game Pass? Any of these games will hit Game Pass at all?
I mean, there's a history of them putting the remasters on there. Or the ports, I guess you could say. It could happen. I think they're going to want that money.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I could see them being like, well, Microsoft's trying to grow Game Pass in Japan and Korea right now.
Yeah.
Them being able to come out and say, hey, all the original Final Fantasy games, the Pixel remasters, are on Game Pass right now. Would be I'm assume would be a deal.
Yeah. I would assume Forspoken would be one that would be.
They've paid a pretty penny for their partnership with Atlas and with RGG also. And those seem to be doing well regardless of where you look at the metrics. Like they did great in the West. The Yakuza series especially, suddenly was getting played by a ton of people. It was a very niche series. I would still argue is a niche series, but I mean, now you got Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth being one of the contenders for Game of the Year. I kind of forget that came out just 3 weeks into the year.
I know.
Persona 3 Reload obviously is a big deal. And by the time this episode posts, the DLC is out. That's part of Game Pass. Like, Square was kind of the last, bastion holding out on them.
Yeah.
So, and I think Square kind of looked at some of these deals that have been thrown Sega's way and were like, all right, we got to get in on this.
Yeah. Well, not just that, but also their expectations of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and it just kind of not making the money they thought it was going to because it was on one platform.
Yeah, I've wondered about that because part of the deal is, yes, it's on another platform, but also sequels usually don't sell as well as the first one.
Yeah, but also Remake was on PS4 and PS5.
Yes.
So,
and most major third-party games still aren't going exclusively to current gen. I mean, Black Ops 6, for fuck's sake, is still going to be on PS4 and Xbox One.
Isn't that crazy?
That absolutely blows my mind, but there's no incentive right now for them to do it. It's going to take them, honestly, at this point, it's going to take Microsoft or it's going to take 2K saying that NBA 2K or Call of Duty are current generation only going forward.
Yeah. Well, you saw what NCAA did, right?
It sold phenomenally.
Yeah.
Consoles were flying off the shelves. You got to think that, maybe Microsoft is looking and being like, God damn, maybe we should have just scrapped the last gen version of Black Ops 6. And it would help with the stability for sure.
Yeah.
But you got to be thinking that next year's, that this is probably the last one you're getting that's cross-gen. I don't know. Maybe they don't care because it's just money.
Right. They're
printing money no matter what. So you got to think, but the PS5 Pro, by the time you listen to this, PS5 Pro will have been announced. Mark Cerny's doing a 10-minute presentation about it in Japan tomorrow. Today, tomorrow, whatever. And PS5 Pro is going to formally be announced. At that point, people got to stop making games for PS4. I'm sorry. PS4, Xbox One, it's time to go.
Yeah.
That
gen just
it's time to go.
Sticking around.
It's time to go. Other games that we did not think were coming to Xbox, but the stance has been reversed. We heard about this a while back, that the reason why some of the older Capcom collections weren't coming to Xbox was because of the engine that they use, and it was incompatible with Xbox or something. And Microsoft apparently has sent engineers over and gotten this rectified. So the Marvel vs. Capcom collections and the other Capcom fighting collections are being launched on Xbox in 2025.
Heck yeah.
I am absolutely excited for this. I love Marvel vs. Capcom. I'm so excited. Holy shit. I can't wait.
I gotta tell you,
I think this is great. This is great, and Capcom basically had said hey, we want to bring these games over. We just don't have the manpower, essentially.
Yeah.
to troubleshoot this and try and get it working. And Microsoft was like, "Oh, we're not." I think they had to look at this and be like, "We can't. Like, we are like trying to be the face of game preservation right now. We can't. These games cannot skip us.
Yeah.
We have to have these."
Yeah.
If it was from a smaller publisher, maybe they just ignore it. But Marvel versus Capcom, kind of a big deal.
Yeah. Let me tell you, man. I played a little bit of X-Men versus Street Fighter at PAX.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, I fucking love it.
I can't wait. I'm probably going to double dip on this one because I'm probably going to buy it on Switch right away.
Yeah.
And then I'm definitely buying it on Xbox. So,
yeah, I'm telling you, man, that game's gonna be. I have my Switch physical pre-ordered because,
yeah,
I mean, I don't know if I really have to explain why, but I'm quite excited.
Yeah, I'm very excited. So, something else that might excite you, Corey.
Ooh,
2 listings for Transformers games involving Microsoft Studios have been found on the Australian Classification Board site, as well as the Steam keys have been updated for these, supposedly.
I know you can download them on your Xbox, but you can't play them yet.
So
it's Darkspark and Fall of Cybertron.
There are 4 games that have had information updated, and it is War for Cybertron, Fall of Cybertron, Rise of the Darkspark, and Devastation.
Oh my god!
And they have said that they are looking into. They have talked about wanting to get those and the delisted Marvel games back. Which, again, if you're going to be the face of game preservation, if you're going to go buy these big companies, you need to be willing, as a $1 billion corporation, $1 trillion, really. You're one of the most five most profitable and powerful companies in the entire world, and like second or third in tech. You need to be willing to do this if you're going to buy these giant studios up. You have to make these games available.
Yeah,
that is a drop in the bucket for you. Also, I mean, so was running Arcane Austin and Tango Gameworks, but that's beside the point. Yes. I'm just saying, every chance I get to bring that up, I'm bringing it up. So, this would be great, and I mean, almost assuredly they would be like, "Yeah, we're putting them on all the platforms." Cool. Do that while we're at it. Greenlight Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and 4 remaster.
Right.
Give the people what they want. Do everything up through American Wasteland, and I'd be happy.
Man, I mean, if they stopped at 3, I would be happy. But keep going.
I would be fine with getting to 4. I would be over the moon if we got to Underground 2. American Wasteland at that point is just a bonus for me. I've talked about it before. That was in that weird time where it was a cross-gen game, but the 360 version was so radically different from the last gen. It was a totally different game. It was basically an open world Tony Hawk. It was weird.
Yeah.
Which I loved. I love the idea of it, but I don't even know how you would go about doing that one.
Yeah.
I would imagine they would have to stop with 4. My dream would be to get the Underground games, but I don't know if, like, all the licensing that went into those games in particular.
Right.
I don't know if you could do that. Let me play as Jango Fett again in Tony Hawk 4.
Yeah. But yeah, man, the Transformers games excite me beyond belief, man.
I'm so excited.
Oh, I'm so excited.
I'm so excited. I need this. I desperately need this to be real, and then I need them to follow it up with Marvel Ultimate Alliance is back.
Yeah, especially that first one, right? I mean, that first one is.
Yeah, to me, the first one is a better story. The second one plays better, but the first one's the better story.
Look, if you're gonna get Marvel Ultimate Alliance, you might as well go backwards and get me X-Men Legends while you're at it.
I mean, if you're going to do this, get me X-Men Legends, get me the Marvel Ultimate Alliance games, get me X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Yeah, give me that.
Get me Ultimate Spider-Man. And get me the Spider-Man 2 video game. And after that, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. But when you do this, like, that should be part of the purchases. You need to fork out for those licenses and at least make them available on the current platforms.
Yeah.
Or, put out collections on each subsequent one if you have to, or something like things like that should never be out of the libraries if you're buying these up. I understand that Activision let them lapse. Microsoft has no excuse.
Yeah, sell them as
not that Activision had one either, but
sell them as collections and put
Yep.
them all on Game Pass.
Yep, there you go. Bada bing, bada boom.
Yep.
One other little nugget here before we move on to we have one more real news story, at least that I have stacked up here. There's been word surfacing through ye old LinkedIn that Blizzard is working on an unannounced RPG FPS.
Ooh.
And that one of the Overwatch 2 project managers has moved over there. I don't know what to make of this. This obviously would be super early in development.
Yeah.
Like super duper early in development.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine that you see anything on this game in the next 3 years.
Yeah. I was going to say 2 years at the earliest.
This feels like this is something you throw out there after like year one of the next console
mm-hmm.
and announce, hey, Blizzard is working on a brand new game.
Yeah.
A brand new world.
Mm-hmm.
But Blizzard is also infamous for canceling shit. They canceled their survival game just recently. That was this year that got canceled, by the way. That was with the layoffs this spring. And then there was Titan before that. We all remember Titan when that got canceled. I was in college when that got canceled. Mm-hmm. I remember getting the news story while I was waiting for my ride one afternoon.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit, Titan got canceled, and that's been in production for years. I remember reading the Jason Schreier article on that one. And then that got reworked into Overwatch a couple years later. We didn't know how that was going to work. That was basically, they were salvaging assets.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, maybe they're trying to take some stuff from the survival game. I don't know.
Maybe.
Obviously, this is all just conjecture and speculation, but, you know, it's definitely possible. It wouldn't be the first time they've done it. My dream is that StarCraft Ghost exists somehow. But, I mean, the pipeline over at Blizzard is, I would say, solid for 3 of their 4 franchises.
Yeah.
We know that Warcraft is in good hands. We know that Diablo is in good hands. Presumably, I mean, we know we're getting one more Diablo 4 DLC, which I wouldn't rule out being next fall.
Yeah.
Next fall, or at the very, very latest, spring 26. Like, we're talking Q1 26.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's full steam ahead on Diablo 5. I suspect people are already working on Diablo 5 internally. StarCraft 3 has been thrown around a lot. Like, Phil and Sarah both repeatedly have said that StarCraft is a priority for them.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the rise of, like, you know, the re-rise of popularity with, like, Age of Empires and, you know, Age of Mythology and Aura is coming soon. Like, real-time strategy, and Civ is obviously huge. Like, real-time strategy is coming back. I think people are probably hungry for a new StarCraft, right? I would assume so. At least in my opinion.
Yeah, I would really, really hope. I actually almost wonder if this game will be in the StarCraft universe. This unannounced FPS. Like, that would be a way to grow that universe still. You could have 2 separate games being developed. And of course, we reported earlier in the year about the multiple teams being formed at Blizzard from King employees
mm-hmm.
to make smaller scale games and mobile games.
Mm-hmm.
Which I would guarantee you one of those is a StarCraft game.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely guarantee. StarCraft, they probably want a Diablo game in-house that's not co-developed by NetEase now that they have the personnel to do it. You know, pull them off of Candy Crush. They have like 10,000 employees at King. Like, pull them off. You don't need that many for Candy Crush.
Mm-hmm.
Pull them off, let them make games. I mean, we were saying, you know, okay, just give them any franchise that they want out of Xbox, Bethesda, and Blizzard. Let them do whatever they want to with it. Like, you could if you actually put a dedicated team, you could make a fascinating top-down Halo game that is not Spartan Assault. You could make a fascinating Pillars of Eternity game. You know, there are so many games you could do in these universes to grow them.
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have to, like, yeah, you can still have input from the creators of those franchises. Like, they can still kind of oversee it and like shepherd it, maybe even write the story for it, like, but they don't have to be actively developing it in their, and like trying to do something out of their wheelhouse. Like here, yeah, you can let them experiment and take their time. Like if you're going to have your own store for mobile games, you're going to have to do something like this. And they need, Matt Booty was talking earlier this year about the need for games to come out like in a 2 to 3 year span rather than 6 to 7. Yeah. Or 4 or 5 or whatever, like we need smaller scale games that come out quicker. So I wouldn't be surprised if you saw more games that are the scale of like Grounded or Pentiment that take like 2 years to develop and go into early access or to release. I wouldn't be shocked to see more things like that. That are cheaper and like, oh, we've only got to allocate 10 people to this. Sure, we'll let somebody make their passion project. Go for it. So Game Pass lets you do things like that.
Game Pass.
I've only got one more story. I don't know what else you've got on the docket, Corey.
I'm going to be honest. I don't have anything else.
All right. It's been a while, but we got to talk about layoffs.
Yikes. Do we?
Rocksteady is having widespread layoffs due to the poor performance of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. The QA department has seen its size cut in half over the past couple of weeks. Eurogamer talked about this. They've cut the QA team from 33 members to 15. Job losses extend outside of QA. One staff member posting publicly on social media revealed they had been told they were being made redundant in the middle of their paternity leave. Rocksteady staff have told Eurogamer that the loss of so many roles in the QA department, including team members with specialized knowledge, would leave their remaining colleagues shouldered with more work. There's also been an acknowledgement by Rocksteady senior management that product quality will now suffer as a result, staff say. This is wild, and we all saw this coming.
Yeah.
Every single one of us saw this coming from the minute this game was revealed. From the minute it was being whispered about, we knew this was coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
unfortunately, we saw this coming.
Yeah. And, this was maybe the most predictable thing ever.
It's not great. I feel bad for the team because we know they're a talented team and, kind of being forced into a game as a service that for a game that was clearly supposed to be like either a single player or some sort of co-op kind of campaign type game. Like, it sucks. And you know what? The higher ups are not getting, the developers are suffering for this and it's not their fault, right?
They're suffering for decisions made at the top.
Yeah. Thank you.
Fucking David Zaslav, man.
Yeah.
Dude has absolutely no idea what he is doing. He's not even over games. He's over all of WB in general. I mean, look at what he's done at HBO.
Yeah.
Look what he's done. I mean, this is the guy who decided he didn't need another Batman series from Bruce Timm. Like, and they let Cape Crusader go to fucking Amazon where it got great reviews. Like, just, you got to be kidding me.
Right. Just, I don't understand what's going on over there, man.
I don't get it either. I thought we kind of thought overall like, oh, maybe they finally have like figured it out, and it feels more and more like Hogwarts Legacy was just like a lightning in a jar moment.
Well, they did say that the sequel's a priority for them now.
It sold 20 million copies. It'd be a priority for me too. It's like your only profitable game in years. Like, outside of Mortal Kombat, which, like, Mortal Kombat 1 didn't do phenomenal from my understanding. It has had a really hard time with player retention.
Definitely hasn't done as well as 11.
The other games in the series.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
I was trying to see if I could find numbers on it real fast, but yeah.
Yeah, it's, but hey, I mean, you have something like 11 and, like, they move on to Mortal Kombat 1 because they're not sure if they want to, if WB is going to sell them off, so they can't be working on Injustice, right? Like, that seems like a foolish move. So I don't know.
Yeah, man, I would really, really, really love another Injustice game overall from WB, but it feels like I'm not going to get it. I don't know what happens to Rocksteady here. Like there have been rumors about them getting sold off. I mean, those rumors have swirled for years.
Yeah.
I think we can all remember back to summer of 2020, back when they were first looking to sell off WB games. Fucking David Zaslav again was looking to sell them off, and I guess got talked out of it.
Yeah.
Because at the time, Microsoft and EA were the two main suitors, and because it kind of fit the bill of like what Microsoft wanted. Also, like, oh, they'd have a dedicated fighting studio, they'd have Rocksteady for single player stuff, and but it wouldn't have come with any of the rights.
Who knew Avalanche was going to be their like flagship
Not
studio?
me.
Now?
I mean, the thing is, like, I think most people would agree. Like, the game was fine. Like, I don't think it's like revolution. Like, when I talk about like the best licensed games of the last several years, like, it doesn't make my list personally. Like, I think that it's kind of in that Outlaws category of like, yeah, it's a solid 8. Like, there's nothing. It's not bad. It's not like incredible, but it's not bad. Mm-hmm. And I think that's just like, obviously, it's a very touchy IP to work with, to say the least, these days. Obviously, people buy games. They don't give a shit. It's like it's Harry. Oh, hey, it's cool. It's a Harry Potter game. Like, we've never had a good Harry Potter game.
Mm-hmm.
The best we've ever gotten was Lego. Harry Potter was the best we'd ever gotten,
which is getting some weird remaster, by the way.
I don't understand that either. Mm-hmm. I don't understand a lot of the decisions being made by WB right now. They've basically shut Traveler's Tales down, which was another like hidden gem, but apparently had a horrible work culture because again, there's no oversight. Yeah. It's one thing after another over there, and I wonder if Rocksteady is still going to be a part of WB this time next year. I genuinely think they're going to get sold off. Like, this is a team that had something so special with Arkham Asylum and Arkham City. Arkham Knight, we can debate all day long if it was a good game or not. Like, you either fall into you loved it or you hated it. Mm-hmm. And then it was 8 years. It was like 8-9 years until we got Suicide Squad.
Yeah,
which we've all seen how that one's gone. So I don't know. Like, I still think that Rocksteady has enough of a pedigree and name to be able to function on its own. But I mean, the talent that made those games is gone. Yeah. That made the good games. So who knows? I have no idea what happens to the studio, but with the way WB manages things, I wouldn't be surprised if Avalanche is like their primary studio. Avalanche and NetherRealm are like their two main studios going forward.
Yeah.
So, but that's all I've got for tonight.
Yeah, WB, get it together, man. Like, I don't know. It just, I don't want to get into it now because we've been going for so long already. But like,
yeah,
God, some of these companies just the answer is like right there. What are you doing? That's my rant for the night. So,
oh boy.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's get out of here, Corey.
Yeah, let's do that. I want to thank everybody out there for watching and or listening to this episode of Xbox Casuals. I'm still recovering, Josh. Thank you for carrying me tonight. It's been a hell of a week. Yeah, I don't know. Thank you for your time, Josh. As always, where can we find you?
Twitter, Josh_Finn. 2 N's.
2 N's.
2 N's.
You can You can find me at I am Corey HD on them socials. I am going to plug my really awesome interview with Yacht Club Games this week at PAX. Learned a lot about just the concept of Shovel Knight in general, and the success of the studio and Mina the Hollower, and really, really great talk. So I'm going to plug that. But yeah, check out Tower Casuals, our sister show about Destiny. A lot to talk about this week, Josh.
Oh
boy, do we have a lot to talk about.
I'm coming with multiple drinks.
Oh, geez, yeah. Anyways, thank you so much for watching and listening. And until next time, we love you. Goodbye.